Hey everybody, my name is Chase Pipes and you're watching Chasing History, brought to you by Arrowheads.com and Smoky Mountain Relic Room. And we're back! We're back on the border down in southern Arizona. We're in Bisbee, next to Naco, next to Douglas. We're right on the Mexican border, and we're back again with our good buddy Eddie Rodieck. Eddie, thanks, dude. If you ever, this is the guy. Whenever we go in the desert, this is our guide. Eddie's been growing up around here. He's been all over the place, knows all the sites, and we're down here looking for and to tell you the story of the 1916 U.S. invasion of Mexico. Dude, that's such a... Here's what's wild is that's such an amazing history that nobody's really heard of, that nobody's really thought of. But what happened is in 1916, in the build-up to World War I, the United States was staying out of the war. You know, 1914, World War I starts, 15, this is 16. So the war in Europe's already going on, and Britain and other countries are begging the United States, come in the war, come in the war. And Germany, who is the major opponent during that time, is afraid that the United States might enter the war. So what happens is secretly the German government sends messages and communiques to the Mexican government trying to talk the Mexican government into attacking the United States. Yeah, you know, I mean, as a way to keep America out. If America's borders feel threatened, they're not going to send their troops over to Europe. It was a wild little plan by the Germans, and one that we figured out. We intercepted those communiques from the Germans that talked about, you know, getting Mexico involved and starting a war here, and how Germany would back Mexico's invasion of the United States. So when that happened, the United States started sending troops. At this time, also in Mexico's history, was the 1911 Mexican Revolution. That was going on, where Mexico was fighting another revolution for its independence and freedom from an oppressive government. So you got all these guys that are fighting for control down there. So Pancho Villa makes a raid into Brownsville, Texas, and shoots up the town. The U.S. Army troops that were stationed there flip out, and they're he's invading and going crazy. And so Wilson says, that's it, send everybody. So they send 100,000 United States troops. Big time. Huge mobilization of the National Guard, the United States Army, Cavalry, down to the United States border, from Arizona all the way to Texas, to guard our southern borders. So they're down there, and this is what's wild is this is the first major mobilization of the United States Army and Cavalry since the Spanish-American War. So there's a lot of new inventions that's come out. There's a lot of new toys. You know, you've got airplanes, you've got motorcycles, you've got cars. You know, this is the first time to test all this stuff out. And what's wild is it totally backfired. Like, it showed us really quickly that we didn't know what we were doing when we get down there. The excuse to go into Mexico was to hunt and to capture Pancho Villa. So the United States Cavalry mobilized, got up, and they went into Mexico to hunt Pancho Villa, and they couldn't find him. It was a disaster. All of our vehicles were breaking down. Our planes weren't doing good. You know, it was just a complete nightmare for the United States Cavalry. But this was really, in a sense, the last hurrah of the United States Cavalry. This was the very last campaign that the United States Mobile Cavalry took place on foot in mass like this, which is a really cool thought in and of itself. So, you know, this is a really neat, interesting period of history. So what they did is they established all these forts and all these campsites for all these troops that were rushed down to the border, and that's what we're going to show you. That's what we're going to go out and check out.
All the way from New Mexico to California along the border.
Yeah, all these campsites. And so, you know, these are major military outposts, you know, with depots and everything, and there are guys there, and they're set up, and they're losing stuff. And that's what we're hoping to find, is some of the stuff. Jump in here and talk about this flag.
Absolutely. Anyway, this is Camp Jones. This is one of many camps that were along the border. Camp Jones was one of the most prominent ones, and it's out in a field actually close to, in the middle of Douglas somewhere. You have to have a good eye to be able to find it. And they set up these tents out here and obviously lived their day-to-day lives and went on maneuvers out in the desert, which that photograph booklet over there is going to tell a little bit of a story.
Show you that, it's cool.
And at Camp Frederick Funston, what's really cool is that we know where exactly where Camp Frederick Funston is, but Chase had pointed out earlier, and this photograph, you can see the existing road that is still there, and you can see the railroad tracks behind it, and you can see the slag pile that they used to put underneath each one of these tents. When they put their tents up, especially the rectangular tents that we're going to see here, they put about 6 to 8 inches of this volcanic slag or smelter slag underneath it to keep the water and keep the inside of the tent dry.
See, that's
and
genius.
We found the sites where these tents were, and you could see the footprints of all these rectangular slag piles that they put their tents on. It's absolutely amazing.
We're going to show you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take you there today and show you what's going on.
So what kind of artifacts are we going to be looking for out there? You've got some stuff that you found in the past. Can you show us some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, these are a collection of things that the old timers found a long time ago. And these are really cool things. This is particularly related to Naco, Arizona. And it's the 10th Cavalry. You have 10th Cavalry cross sabers, cavalry, dog tags, artillery, you name it, equipment markers. Most of this is 10th Cavalry, and a reunion watch fob, which isn't from Arizona, but it's still an interesting piece to kind of take a look at. After the wars, they got together. The Indian Wars got together. The World War II groups, World War I groups got together, and so did the 10th Cavalry.
Now tell us about the 10th Cavalry, because that's a really unique cavalry unit and a really important one in United States military history. Who were the 10th Cavalry?
Well, the 10th Cavalry were the 9th Cavalry, the 10th Cavalry, the 24th, and the 25th, which too many people don't know and recall. And they were the Buffalo Soldiers. They were named Buffalo Soldiers by the Native Americans when they fought out here. And they were particularly adapt to the environment. And they were much more rugged than some of the other soldiers, too.
So these are African American soldiers. You got to keep in mind, unfortunately, the United States military at that time was a segregated military.
Absolutely.
And the African American soldiers were segregated into their own particular units. However, they got some of the hardest, most difficult assignments and became some of the best trained, best equipped soldiers in the United States.
Best fighters, most heroic fighters.
Yeah, actually in World War I don't know if it's the 10th Cavalry, it's one of the infantry divisions where they sent in the Buffalo Soldiers in World War. That's such a cool story.
Yeah, yeah.
They sent in them, and all the other divisions couldn't make it, and this group of Buffalo Soldiers held out and held the line during World War I.
They did.
They were some of the most incredible troops that the United States had at its disposal at that time.
I think if you were a Buffalo Soldier at that time, you not only the fact that you were brave, but you wanted to show other people that you were brave and what you had to offer, and that you were not the exception to the rule,
So we've got other troops out there doing things like maneuvers, and you've got God, this is so cool, man. I love this thing. So this is a really cool scrapbook.
Absolutely.
Tell us about this.
Well, that's, believe it or not, we got it on eBay. And I couldn't believe it. It's the 11th Field Artillery. It's their photo album while they were stationed in Douglas, Arizona. There's even a photograph in here of the Buffalo Soldiers marching into town along the train station.
Show them.
There's a postcard in here that says the 11th Field Artillery, and there's a hand-illustrated cartoon in here that was illustrated in India ink by Choppy Harrington. He's
oh, that's cool.
Yes, he was one of the 11th Field Artillery.
So here's what's neat. Look at these. I mean, you can see these guys are down in the desert. This is all right where we're going, out down in here. But this is all just personal photos.
11th Field Artillery.
Okay. So what are these guys doing out in the desert?
They're doing maneuvers. This is a good one. Film that one right there. 11th Field Artillery postcard. Can I tell them why this is a prominent book and what the 11th Field Artillery is famous for?
Please do.
Well, you tell me, when did the World War I end?
Let's see. That would be the November 11th month.
11th month. It ended on the 11th month, 11th year, 11th hour, and guess who fired the last shell of World War I? The 11th Field Artillery.
These guys right here. That's so cool. So I mean, this is not only an important. This right here is not only an important group of of local history, but a very important part of world history as well. Because this is the group that finished out World War II.
The last shell was fired by this group in this photo album, and then years later, I was absolutely amazed. Look at the title of this book. From Arizona to the Huns, the story of the 11th Field Artillery, and guess who it's illustrated by? the same person that had illustrated one postcard in here, Choppy Harrington, and it tells of their tales in Arizona, in Europe, in France, and also where they were stationed. And this book was stationed in France, written in France after the war.
You know, but that's something that's important to talk about, you know, about what this campaign was and the importance of it is, you know, this got us ready for World War I. You know, we hadn't fought a major war since the Spanish-American War of 1898, and really that wasn't even a major war at all in the grand scheme of things. So, you know, this was our training ground for the First World War. I mean, they're out there, they're digging trenches. You know, that's another place we're going to go try to find is we're going to go try to find a trench emplacement where they dug trenches like they would.
The Buffalo Soldiers, absolutely.
Right. Just like they would have to do in World War I, because that war was already shaping up to be a trench war. We're going to cut here. We're going to take you guys out in the field, show you on site what these places look like today, see what we can find, and we'll come back to the end and wrap up on this history. Sound awesome? All right, see you guys in a second. So we're down here on the border with Mexico with our good buddy Eddie Rodieck. Eddie, where are we heading to?
We're headed to an old abandoned ranch that was probably run in 1920s, 1930s.
On the border!
Yeah!
So cool.
Yeah, it's cool. You'll find copper artifacts that the miners poured at the end of the day. The remaining little bit of copper, they shaped it into little ashtrays and cups. What I found out here one time was, I thought it was just a pile of copper, and actually what it was a deer. I unfolded all the antlers, and sitting next to it were marbles and other artifacts, and this is something that's been forgotten about for, you know, 80 years or plus.
That's so cool, man. So how many of these ranches are down here on the border?
More than you could probably count. You know, the idea is to find out where they were. They're long forgotten.
Yeah.
And one of the key things to looking for them when you're driving along the horizon like this, you're looking for trees. And when you find these trees that stick above the scrub line, you find a windmill, you find a concrete foundation, and then you look for the treasure in the trash pile.
And see, that's where a lot of cool stuff is discovered are in these old trash piles. You know, stuff that back in the teens and 20s that were trash to them, you know, are treasures to us today.
Now, yeah.
You know, and these places, like Eddie was talking about, they're totally forgotten, totally abandoned. It's a whole other awesome aspect of history to go chase. It's so cool, man. So, well, what were these ranch? What was their business down here on the border? Like, what were they? Were it cattle, horses? Were they doing trade with Mexico?
Just take a look at the shrubbery here. You can see it was cattle. They were just perfect for cattle. It was cattle, but boy, I bet it was tough too.
Hard
look, there are the windmills. See, look, there's trees. There's a tree line there. There it is. Look. Cattle. Was I lying to you?
No, there are cattle.
Fat cattle.
Look at those horns.
So cool.
And the thing about it is here, you look at that cattle, you look at a little bit of water left, you look at the old windmill. Somebody's actually just recently piled up what was remnants of the old ranch and stuff. But out here, you look at this and you wouldn't believe that there'd be anything worth finding. And sure enough, inside of this scrub right here is porcelain and other artifacts mingled with it.
Nice, nice, nice.
You see all this? This looks like trash, right? This is trash to the uneducated eye. But we metal detectors, okay, up here now. We call this sexy dirt. You know why? Because this shows the history of the person that lived here and what he did.
Oh,
now,
for sure, man.
People think that back in the day, around 1916, people sat around the campfire and watched TV. It wasn't like that. They actually played music with harmonicas. They
rode horses.
With
spurs.
They actually shot at everything that moved.
This is neat. I don't know what the heck this is. That's a neat. And this is just stuff on the surface, dude.
And
that's what's so cool about metal detecting out west is it's on the surface.
Ask me if this guy was in the military.
Oh, it's your little military button. Nice. That's a World War I era U.S. military military button. That is sweet, dude, little cuff button.
Yes, sir.
Dude,
and
that's
we've only been
awesome.
here 5 minutes.
Little glass stopper.
That was just sitting on
Man,
the surface.
see, that's what's great about these old ranches and the deserts that we're out in here. You know, here's what you got to keep in mind is, you know, there's no, only thing that's happening in the desert is erosion. There's no plants piling up dirt and soil. You know, you go back east, you know, to Civil War sites, you start hitting Civil War stuff at 6 inches under the ground. That's because you've got dead plant matter and stuff like that. Here, out in the desert in the dry conditions, it's literally laying on the surface where it was dropped. So he spent a while metal detecting out on this ranch site. God, this place is so cool, dude. I mean, heck, but I'll tell you, it was wild to metal detect because I was having trouble with my detector because the ground's so hot. There's so much
lots
stuff
of
on the
tin
stuff.
and wire,
It
nails.
was just hard for me to discern, but still found a lot of great stuff on the surface. Well, when you're out here metal detecting, you know, and you've got a lot of ground clutter like that, what do you do? How do you react to that?
Well, what I look for after years of experience is I kind of look for the day-to-day garbage, like where did they dump the stuff from the house, their blue jeans, their plates.
Right.
And these kind of people had believe it or not, had another separate pile for metal and tin and wire,
Now, why
and
would
the
they
two
do
are
that?
separate. I have no idea. I suppose, you know, that maybe they came back to use the scraps of tin
Scrap
and
or
metal like
something,
that,
yeah.
right? So I head for the areas that clearly show, I mean, look at this. Here's some Chinese
Here's some neat
porcelain.
stuff. Chinese porcelain, imported in porcelain.
Yeah, and then Eddie found this marble and this 1880 buckle, suspender buckle. I mean, crude construction. What a
But
beautiful piece.
that's without a doubt 1880. That's what's cool about that is that's neat.
1880s, which means it was their grandpa's, because out here not only did somebody drop a coin in 1999, but there's also a wheat penny in here from 1920. And you could tell perhaps the guy that was here, he was in the military, because there's a World War I button.
There's a little military button.
So. And a bead and suspender buckles. This belonged to the garter of one of the girls in the house.
Yeah.
They also had these little, what are they called? Bobby, what are these?
Safety pins.
Safety pins. Yeah. So just day-to-day living items that they didn't care for anymore. A glass stopper
glass
to a medicine bottle that they threw away, and occasionally you'll find some treasures in here and get a bit of history of how they lived and who they were.
What's interesting is that, you know, we've got this military button right here, okay? And that's kind of what we're out here looking for, what we're out here talking about is it's hard for people to fathom, but in 1916, the United States sent 100,000 troops down along the U.S. border with Mexico because of a feared German-backed Mexican invasion. This was a real threat. And when Pancho Villa raided over into Texas, into Brownsville, Texas, the U.S. Army used that as an excuse to push in. This was like the last hurrah of the United States Cavalry, you know, to push in and to hunt for Pancho Villa, which they unsuccessfully did.
And the border fence is just right over here.
And see, right, and that's what we're at. We are literally a quarter of a mile from the border with Mexico. It's right over here where we're at. And we're finding this military stuff, you know, showing that, you know, not only the buttons, but look at this, you know, the 30-06, you know, this is a Springfield 1902 30-06 rifle clip, and those are the bullets that it held, you know, and I mean, there's just gobs and gobs and gobs of them. So, you know, you can imagine the cavalry troops, you know, out here maintaining the border, checking things out, stopping by this ranch right here,
checking
getting
on their
some
welfare,
water, seeing how they are, see if they saw anything, you know, and losing a little cuff button along the way. So, and maybe firing off a few rounds or dropping a clip or something like that. But that's what we're out here doing is we're out here to find this evidence, to find that story.
This is just a ranch house. We haven't even gone to the military camps right yet. Now that they built the old Walmart from 1970 is on top of Camp Frederick Funston. More fun to come.
No! Well, let's quit talking about it, dude. Let's go check it out. Woohoo! Now, Eddie, explain to me what we've got going on back here. You know, we're out combing the desert looking for, you know, Pancho Villa era 1916 invasion of Mexico sites. You know, it's such a cool part of American history that nobody really thinks about. You know, in 1916, with the threat of World War I and the so-called threat of a German-backed, you know, Mexican invasion of the United States sent 100,000 troops down to the border to guard our border territory. Pancho Villa raided over in Brownsville, Texas, and when Pancho Villa came over, you know, it got everybody up in an uproar. U.S. cavalry was sent down to guard the places, and forts were built all along the border. And this is one of the sites they were
Remaining
built.
fort still standing, yeah, and they just recently started to preserve and put a fence up around it. That's why we can't get in. The officers' barracks over there burned down about 5 years ago, and then they finally put a fence up around it. First time I came here, in that building over there was a claw tub, porcelain claw tub, just sitting there. It's quite a bit of history here. And then, in a period about 40 years ago, Vision Quest had moved in here. You have to do a little bit of research on Vision Quest, but it was a group and an organization that helped youth, orphan youth, and they travel around the United States from Arizona to Montana in covered wagons. And that building over there and some of these buildings here were their base. When I first walked through there, you could find their pamphlets inside.
No joke.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Now, you were telling us a story. Here's what's so cool about this site is this is one of the last places that you can go to and look and see these borderland, army barracks still in place,
Yeah.
that haven't been destroyed, that haven't been turned back to dust. And what's so cool is that the local area has put these fences up, the local town, to preserve and to protect these sites, which, dude, that's so awesome. We applaud that effort. That's great, man. So, but this is the last one that we've got standing. Eddie was telling us a cool story about some of the battles there were battles that took place
Big
here.
time. They used to fly biplanes over Naco, Arizona, and then the people from Bisbee would, it was during the Civil War when they'd get up and picnic, they would get on top of that mountain range over there and watch them drop hand bombs over Naco,
That's
Arizona.
nuts.
I'll just tell you. Yeah.
See,
absolutely.
that's what's interesting about, the Pancho Villa campaign and, operations such as this that was on the border during World War I is that this was the very first time in American history where, you're using planes and automobiles and motorcycles and all of this other great, awesome stuff,
accumulated right here.
Yeah, this was the testing ground. Along with, this was the very last hurrah for the United States Mounted Cavalry. One of the last times in United States military history where U.S. troops on horses, went into attack positions and to scout out and to do their cool cavalry thing, This was also one of the sites for, and sorry about all the traffic, guys, there's nothing we can do to control it. We'll try to speak louder, but, this was one of the sites for the Buffalo Soldiers. The famed 10th Cavalry was here. Tell us about them.
Well, 9th, 10th, 24th, and 25th Cavalry, the Buffalo Soldiers. I've got some postcards to show you guys later in their camps at Camp Naco, campsites in Camp Naco, strewn all along the border here. Sometimes if you're lucky, like we were, I was unlucky one time. We parked in a parking lot next to my friend's house, and she said, "What are we looking for?" I said, "Buffalo Soldiers insignias." And he got out of the truck, put his foot down, and goes, "Look at this, 24th Cavalry."
That's what's so cool about being out on the desert is stuff is laying straight on the surface in places, and we'll show you guys, some of the things that we found where it's still on the surface. But this is at a sad time in United States military history where the United States military was segregated, but the Buffalo Soldiers, the 9th and 10th Cavalry, were some of the most incredible and most experienced troops in the United States military at that time. They were the ones during the Indian Wars, and Spanish-American War. These were the most elite soldiers that the United States military had was its African-American troops, its Buffalo Soldiers, and this is one of the camps that they were at. And that's just, God, it's just so cool, dude.
And the buildings are still standing. That's
I know,
incredible.
that's what's awesome, dude. All right, so we've got this snaking rock wall with a little bit of ditch on this side going all the way that way. What do we got going on here?
Okay, so this be 1916. This is a rock alignment here. And what's really cool about this, Isaac, move in for a close-up. Move in for a close-up. This is so cool. You see these boulders right here? Wait, before I touch it, I wanna relish the moment. This was placed here by a Buffalo Soldier. Look at that. Oh, my connection to a man that was here in 1916, a Buffalo Soldier. Him and I are one now.
Dude, that's awesome, man. So what are these rock walls that we've got going through here?
Okay, what they had done.
Because the border's right there.
Exactly. So during that campaign, aside from Fort Newell, which was their base over, they had strewn tent sites and camps all along here. And you'll see later in the feature, you'll see the postcards of the Buffalo Soldiers camped at these exact spots. These were trenches, and these rock alignments were the rock that they dug out of the trench. I'm not sure exactly what side they camped on, but they were protecting the United States from that border and that side and the aggression of the Mexicans that were crossing the border. So you would have had Buffalo Soldiers in these trenches here protecting the United States, and they individually placed each one of these boulders.
Dude. So these are this rock wall is what's left of the trench emplacement.
Exactly.
That's so cool, and it keeps going. Come with us. Come on. You can see rock wall goes through here, and then there's another section of it up here, and it seems like it snakes around like this all the way up to the border. But I mean, look at the work that went into it. I mean, gathering up all the smaller rocks, you know, to make up this defensive wall. I mean, this is so cool, man.
And the really cool thing about this is that, you know, then this would have been lost to history. Who would know that this was installed here and it was a trench by the Buffalo Soldiers? Credit to the owner of the Gay 90s in Naco, Arizona, and credit to Chase, who's come all the way out here to record this, because in another 50, 60, 30 years, who's going to know? Anybody hiking out here, going on this ranch, who would know that this was installed by the Buffalo Soldiers?
Well, and right, you know, and you've got a really good point, because, you know, the rancher that owns this property now, you know, they're kind of leveling off and erasing and turning this scrub brushes into pasture.
Exactly.
And they're erasing away any and all evidence. So as far as we know, this right here, what you're watching, could be the only recording of these Buffalo Soldiers entrenchment that was put here to protect the United States border from a possible German-backed Mexican invasion. To me, that's just so cool, dude. And it's right here, man. This is awesome.
And now saved forever.
And now saved forever. All right. So you guys know on Chasing History, we don't have any script, any agenda, anything. The only thing we're trying to do is just show the history that's here. So Eddie and I are walking out, and first off, real quick, I looked down and said, "Hey, look, there's an arrowhead." We found a little broken arrowhead, which is pretty
definitely
cool.
Archaic.
Definitely archaic, you know, 4,000 to 6,000 years. But what's neat is we were looking at these trenches, and it's wild how complex they look, because, you know, we've got a corner that comes into here, we've got another wall that comes into here. I mean, this isn't just a line in the sand delineating, you know, between America and the border. You know, we've got something a lot more complex going on here.
Absolutely. We're trying to figure it out as we're going along, and we've seen the trencheras. We thought it'd be a trench, you know, that they were inside, but they have one there, they have one here, and all of a sudden you notice the soil in between is smoother with a lot less rocks, and on the outside of these border lines you can see the natural desert where the rocks are. So I'm beginning to think, we're beginning to put it together, is that they excavated this whole site in here and they lived down in this area, and it's filled up over time, but it's just speculation and a guess on our part. Nothing else to figure out.
Well, what's really interesting is that this looks a lot more like, you know, what we would see eventually in the First World War, these really complex trench systems. And to me, you know, that's what's interesting about this campaign in 1916. World War I was already going on. The United States wasn't involved yet, but we were getting our military ready to go over to Europe to fight these trenches warfare. And this seems to be the very first full-scale practice of, you know, this trench warfare. How do you make complex trench systems? And this is evidence of, you know, here they're working trying to figure out these complex trench systems. And dude, that's cool. That's awesome, man. That's cool. Let's walk and show you guys. Come on with us real quick. We'll show you guys what we're talking about. We've got the curve back behind. We've got another trench system that hooks up right here. Okay, let's go down to this section. Right here's the trench that we were behind. Let's go around this bush. And you see right here along this wall right here, come on closer, we've got where the trench comes down. Got where the trench comes down, and then right here makes a 90-degree turn. So you've got this 90-degree boxed-in corner right here. You've got more complex trenches.
With an opening over there getting into this area. So that was the opening of going into this broad area over here. You see the two walls are not connected. I would imagine that they would have walked in through there to get into this area here.
You know, what this will definitely take is this will definitely take a return visit. The thing about this is that it'll take time. What we need to do is we need to get an aerial view and try to remap out these trenches. So that, to me, that's awesome. awesome, dude. You know, if we can get an aerial view and try to map out and see what this trench system was like in 1916. One thing that's really important that I want to show you guys really quickly is this little arrowhead that I found. We want to put it back where it was. Now that's something that's hugely important that you do on sites like this that you're checking out, because you want to leave the history undisturbed. Just like we're not going out and ripping up this wall, taking souvenirs home, we want to be responsible historians, responsible storytellers, and leave the artifacts in the spot that we found them as we found it. So that's something that's really important that you guys ought to do out there. If you see that the artifact is in jeopardy of being washed down a raging river, that's one thing. But on a site like this where future generations are going to come, that's an important part of this story, is that little artifact, because that shows the Native American history to this site, and we want to leave that there so that future historians can come along and look and say, oh wow, we've got Native American history at this site also. So, you know, when you chase history, you want to leave as little impact as possible. So we're going to leave that there.
And it's completely different to a vacant lot downtown when you have a permission of the homeowner to go on his property and dig an old trash dump. A trash dump is almost something completely different than a historic site like this, where you want to leave things in situ and you want to come in and explore it and do a proper survey of it to protect the history. A trash dump, it just got piled in one big pile in there. When you're pulling stuff out of a trash pile in the middle of a vacant lot that they're going to be putting a building on with no regards for what's down there, you're actually saving history.
Right, and that's what this series is all about. This is one of the really cool sites that we wanted to show you guys. This is Camp Frederick Funson. You know, during the 1916 invasion of Mexico, Pancho Villa era campaign, this was one of the major campsites for the United States Cavalry. And what's interesting is where it was located. It was located right next to this big slag heap area right over there where they were mining. If you can see in the distance the big slag area, what they were doing is that was a processing mine. What kind of a mine was that?
It was for the ores down here in Douglas. I'm not sure if it was for processing ores from Bisbee or the surrounding mines. I'm not really sure. I have to look up on the history, yeah.
But what's really interesting is how the United States Army capitalized. You know, there was all this slag, all this really perfect, you know, powder stuff that they could use.
That pile over there, yeah.
Yeah, that they could use for their campsites. And what they did, come on, check out with us. See this black right here? This black should be nowhere near here. The ore processing site is on the other side of the road, you know, a half a mile away. But yet we find these little square spots right in here. So there's a spot up ahead that we'll show you that's a whole lot clearer than that. But what these guys were doing is they were taking this slag and they were using it for their floors.
Their platform on top of the tents, because the water, you know, it wouldn't be muddy. They'd build it up about 6 inches and put a tent on it. Yep.
That way, whenever the rain came or whatever, it just sunk right through, and their feet and everything would stay dry. But while we were walking through the thing, come here, look at this. Very rarely do you ever get on the surface items, but look right here. There's a stripper clip there. Come over here. It rained like crazy last night, and it unearthed all of these stripper clips. See, right here's one right here, just barely weaving out of the ground. There's another one back there. But what these are, guys, is look here. These are called stripper clips. This is for the model 1903 Springfield. This was the first multi-shot rifle that the United States Army had. And what it would do is you would take the 30-06 shell, and they would go inside these clips where you had a full clip magazine of bullets, and that would go down into your rifle. And as you fired, you would load another round, fire, load another round, fire, until you shot all 5 shots, and the stripper clip would ping out and go onto the ground. So this is exactly what we want to find. This is direct military artifacts. This is what we want to find.
Camp Frederick Funson.
From Camp
also
Frederick
over here
Funson.
in the corner, we're not sure what this is, but there's a little concrete construction with rock and gravel, and not quite sure what that was, but definitely remnants of the camp.
Yeah, not sure what it is, but I mean, you know, that too is evidence. See, that's what's wild about some of these camps out here and out in the West is I mean, look all around us. You know, there's all these prickly thorns and everything, but hidden down and amongst them, there's evidence of United States military, you know, involvement, action, life right here. You know, and the border, we're just a mile away from the Mexican border. I mean, it's just right over there. So it's Camp Frederick Funson. This is another one of those places where, you know, the United States military set up a camp. You know, there were thousands of troops here, you know, and the evidence is still, you you know, discernible. You can still see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go this way a little bit, and we're going to show you guys one of the hut floors that's so obvious you can't miss it. But man, it's so cool.
This is a tent row right here. We're going to see rectangles with the lava rock on it where you could clearly see there were about 6 or 7 tent sites through here, and at the end of the day we'll show you the photograph, the yard-long black and white photograph of Camp Frederick Funston, which is one of the only ones I've ever seen, and you're going to be able to delineate and see these tent sites that we're going to walk and take and show you today. You'll be able to see where the buildings for the smelter were still standing. You're going to be able to see this road that's on our south side. All of this evidence, and this is the artifacts and the remnants of what's left.
All right, guys, so here's what we've got is we're right here on one of these building sites, and you can really see the evidence in the ground. If you look right behind me, look at how we're going. You see this whole corner set up right here. You can see the slag piles, and just look how deep it is. See how deep it, and what this is, see, this is all that slag. If you look at it, this is slag ore that they would take and they would crush up, and they would make these 6-inch deep pad to get them out of the ground and off the dirt. And if you look down here, you can see the corner. See how we've got one corner going one way, and we've got another corner right here going another way, and another corner there, and another corner there, and it's squaring, and it's all squaring back up. So this tells us that there was a building here.
A tent.
This is a tent structure, and we'll show you guys a really cool long photograph that Eddie's got that shows the tents and all in a row.
All in a row.
And it's just, it's so neat to come out here and to see this evidence left from Camp Frederick Funston. Dude, this is awesome, man. All right, so what we're doing is we got our metal detectors out. We're hitting the site to see if we can find anything under the ground, the underground remains of military life here at this fort site. And Eddie, guys, so cool. So this is proof. Only the ladies wore these. This is proof that they were sneaking girls into their dorms when they shouldn't have. Those are garter laces that would pull their stockings up and hook it to their waist. That's say somebody got a little frisky when they shouldn't. And Eddie found this thing. This is really cool. That's a little bird pendant. See on the back. See the wings are crushed out, but show the creme de la creme, dude.
Okay, this is the creme de la
awesome.
creme, and I got to qualify. You know, we were just out here filming, and somebody drove up and with a radio and asked us what we were doing, and we told him we were filming Chasing History, and he said, I got to check with my superintendent. He said, you guys are cool, and we had metal detectors sitting over there by the trucks, which we left, and he said he didn't care. So we got our metal detectors out, and I told Chase we're not going to find anything out here because the old timers back in the 60s had cleaned it out.
There's nothing for years. He's been saying this.
You're not going to find anything
We're
here.
driving down this road to the other side, and he's, there's Frederick Funston over there. And why don't we go there? Old timers killed it. There's nothing left. There's nothing left. And what do you got?
So this guy told us, he said, you can do it here, but you can't do it over there at the slag pile again. That's where they're mining. But check that out. 5th Cavalry, Company K.
That's so cool.
Cavalry, yeah. And
That's
show them what
awesome.
you found, and I'm dying.
So here's what I picked up. This is awesome. So, all right, nothing great. A few more of those guys.
Nice, you found that?
Isn't that cool? Here's a U.S. military cuff button right here. 1916 and a 1908 or 06 Indian head penny.
Yep.
All right, and here's the other Indian head penny. This is, see when this is dated. This is 1906 Indian head penny. This is exactly the period. It's exactly what we want. This is exactly
you know what?
period.
I think we need to stop metal detecting, go back and do some research, and then I can come back with information next week while you're in Tennessee and let you know what I found.
Yeah. But what's cool is this is proof, this is evidence, that this was a campsite. You can delineate from looking at things on the surface of the ground. Oh yeah, that's what, and look at the pictures. But when you actually pick up the artifacts and find the artifacts that are just sitting out here in the desert, eroding away to nothing, now the artifacts are saved, they're collected, and they can be enjoyed by people because the information we will put with this will stay with this artifact for the rest of its life, which I think is really cool.
Really important.
But there's something here that I really want to stress, when you come out on sites like this, and particularly this site, is make sure that you do have permission. All right, so cool. So we're out here. Eddie, we were off metal detector. Come here. Check stuff out. What do we got, dude? This looks awesome.
So it could be broken, but you'll never know. So far, it looks good. This is a soda pop bottle, 1916. Cam Frederick Funston. Right now, this is a moment that you always should cherish. I'm the first person that touched it since the man that drank this. All right, so I'm going to excavate it. I'm going to pray that it's whole, and I think it's soda pop. We're going to find out for sure.
How do you know
It
it?
should say
Now, how can you tell it's a soda pop?
by the shape and the color and how big it is right now.
That makes sense.
And it's coming out like soda pop. And wait a minute, he's sending me a message where I'm gonna make connections. It's 100 years ago, 101 years ago, and it is soda pop, and it's fizzy. It's fizzy. We're gonna find out for sure. Here it is. No!
Dude!
Let me read it to you. Was I correct?
Lucky!
Douglas, Arizona,
No
Soda Works.
Dude, that is awesome, man. No, I knew it.
I'll let you be the
God
second one
dang
to touch
dude.
it.
That's so cool.
Stand back here,
Here's
Stand back
here's here's the thing is that I knew the top was gonna be broken, the bottom half was gonna be broke all to hell. God, that's nuts, dude.
Can I be
I
the third
can't believe.
Can I be the third person to touch it?
I can't. Yes,
Yeah.
Isaac, you can be the third person that touches it. Yeah, pretty cool. All right, but isn't that cool? Douglas Soda Works.
Douglas,
Here's-
Arizona.
Douglas Soda Works bottle. Man, that's so cool. What kind of soda would this have been in?
I don't know, something like Coca-Cola.
Yeah, something like Coke or something. Oh, this is so
Yeah.
cool. And this is right period to this site. And see this varnish on it? This is desert patina. What this is see how the top of the bottle doesn't have anything on it? Because that's what's been on the surface. It's been weathering out and everything. All this down here that you see, when the water comes down, when it hits that soil layer, it's reacting with the minerals in the soil, and the minerals that are in the soil are building up on this bottle that gives it its patina. You know, and see the shine that it's got? It's got a real beautiful purple rainbow shine to it. And a lot of bottle collectors and dealers and whatever and finders, I don't understand why they do it. I think it's ridiculous, but they'll take all this off.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's part of the history is you know, it's got the story of it sitting in the ground for literally 100 years doing its thing. Dude, that's so cool, man. Oh, that's awesome. What we wanted to show you is we wanted to show you one of the last in concrete physical reminders of this camp here, Camp Frederick Funston. Now, this was a cavalry camp, and one of the most important parts about the cavalry is their horses. The most important part about having a horse is taking care of it. And what we've got here is, Eddie, tell us what we're looking at here.
I believe that we have a trough that they walk the horses in. You can see the metal grates along here so the horses wouldn't slip. There's a metal grate along here, and they brought the horses down here. You be a horse, Chase.
Ah,
Winnie.
So they would take the horses and they would lead the horses. The guys would be up here, the horse would be down here. They would lead the horses down into this trough. And this is a great place to get bit by a rattlesnake. They would lead the horses down into this trough. And, lead the horses down into this trough down in here. And what they would do is this water would be full of chemicals and stuff. You can see the water line right here. See this water line? That's the water line right here. And what they would do is they would lead the horses in. The horses would get totally dipped, submerged. They would get whatever chemicals they needed in order to keep them free of ticks and flies and gnats and all kinds of stuff that bothered the horses up. So then they would lead them out that other end. So that's just so cool. Here's a concrete section
Reminder
of what's
of the
left.
cavalry camp that was in place. Come on out and we'll show you the water tank.
You know, and look, guys, see down here? Here's more of that slag gravel that we've got right here.
The mud's out of the
Keep the mud off of the horses because there's a lot of water going on here. And right here, we've got what's left of the water tank.
Could this be a feed tank or a water tank? Look at the water. This is a feed tank, isn't it?
This is water.
With this bars around
Yeah,
it?
this would be water.
Check that out.
Yeah, you see, they wouldn't leave a big pile of feed like this because
In the middle?
rats and
Yeah,
mice and
yeah.
stuff will get in it. The horses can't reach in up there to get it, so this is 100% a feed tank. But this
Water
is what's
tank.
left, or water tank, I mean, yeah, this
Yeah.
is what's left of the water tank. You can tie your horses on to
Okay.
the bars right here. They could do their thing, but man, this is so cool, dude.
Really cool.
God, we hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did out there finding this stuff. Dude, that was so awesome, man. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to, in the shade, show you guys some of the stuff that we found. I know, yeah. some of the stuff that we were found, because these are the artifacts, these are the proof positive that where we were hunting were the sites. Everything from the ranch site that we went to. This is a real neat little just broken part of a spur right there from the ranch site, which is really cool, 1880s.
Can I say what you said when you found that? I've always wanted to find a spur.
And this was another great group of stuff that we found, these musicians' buttons, things like this. These are evidence that, you got the military guys out there doing their thing, playing the music, keeping the troops entertained, stuff like that. One really cool thing that you found was this bottle. That's just awesome. You never get an intact bottle.
Absolutely.
You don't understand.
It was found between the 10 sites at Camp Frederick Funston. Yeah. Absolutely.
And once you've identified where the places are, like we showed you, with the ground, crushed gravel and everything like that, you can walk in between. You can use your own mind and your own imagination to try to figure out, all right, if I was standing here and it was 1916, trying to figure out where would I throw my trash, where would I put my stuff, where could I lose stuff, and you're losing everything from like these buttons here that went on your uniform, and even something that you're not supposed to have. So this is a little United States. Bring it up. This is a little United States underwear button. It's got USA written on it. This is a cuff button from the period, United States cuff button. But this is the funny thing. All right, so guys weren't supposed to have girls in camp. All right, this is proof that the girls were in camp, because this is a stocking clip. That's
so was this. The soldier didn't wear that little bird.
Right? Yeah, no soldiers walking around with that little bird on their shoulder. So that's proof, that the girls were in camp. We found a lot of these, which is what you want to find. These are stripper clips that go on that were used for the 1903 Springfield musket. And these are the stripper clips that these slid into right there, and it would make they would use 5 and you'd shoot 5 off at a time. So a lot of that kind of stuff. But the wildest thing we found is this right here. This is just neat as heck. Where we found it, there was nothing else around it but military artifacts. And see, here's the thing. This is what makes what we do exciting, because you can discover something and it can lead you down a whole range of trying to figure out what it is. This is... We don't know. It's some kind of grenade-looking thing. It was the only thing that was around it.
Dropped from a plane. I'm going to go with it. Was dropped from an airplane.
This was the first time in U.S. Naval Aviation. They were trying to figure out all kinds of stuff, experimenting. This could have been an experimental grenade. Who knows? But
it's lead. It's heavy lead.
It's heavy lead. It's wire wrapped with heavy corrugated wire. I mean, it's just an unusual artifact, and there was nothing else around it but military artifacts. So we know it's a military piece. The wire is from the same period. The little hook here is period, and the patina on it. You only get that not after 30 or 40 years sitting out of that. That's 100 years of patina sitting out on the desert. So that's an unusual thing. This is a really fantastic piece that Eddie found. This is the 5th Infantry Company K crossed rifles. This is their hat pin, hat badge, or collar insignia. This would have gone on the collar right there. You think?
Yeah, look at the barbs on the back. That's to grab your hat, not your jacket.
Well,
I'm gonna disagree with you.
I don't know about it.
This screws on your...
Okay, so... but a lot of great artifacts, man. This was, horseshoes, period horseshoes, proof that the cavalry was there. On the ranch site, and on the fort site, we found harmonica reeds. This is guys, troops, soldiers laying around just trying to, make some tunes in the evenings on the ranch site and on the campsites. So, and the neatest thing, one of my favorite things, I've always wanted to dig one of these, and I'm surprised Eddie didn't leave me out in the desert.
Almost
because yesterday, the day before, I was like, I've always wanted to find a spur. I've never found a spur.
Yeah.
And laying on the surface was this. This is so cool. So this is a 1916, this is how we know that we're in that period. This is a 1916 dated Rock Island Arsenal military issue cavalry spur. That's how we know that we were on the site that we were on. And it's also, if you get into the book, this is a great book if you can find it. It's expensive, but on the Pancho Villa campaign about the artifacts. But here's that spur right there, photographed in the book. So this is how we know that we are on the sites that we're supposed to be on. So, you know, this was just such an awesome experience. Our cameraman Isaac found a great thing. This is Cross Sabers Cavalry equipment tags, and what's neat is you can see the ID number written on it for what it was. But here's what's important about these sites that we go hunt is we get permission from the landowners. And for you guys out there that are going out and hunting and looking for this stuff, that's important for you to do as well. First off, make sure you're not on public land, because you're not allowed to collect artifacts on public land. Make sure that you're on private land.
Absolutely.
And that you have the permission of the landowners, which we were fortunate enough to get. There's one more really cool thing I want to show you guys. And Eddie has got an incredible collection of artifacts and history from this period, and this is such an amazing album of postcards. But these are postcards. Remember, we took you guys to Naco. This right here, that's Naco, Arizona. This is what it looked like when the military was there. Here's the campsite right here when the military was there at Naco. More not pictures of Naco. These are Camp Harry Jones, one of the places that we took you guys to. I mean, these are postcards that shows what these sites were like at the time. And also, here's what's wild is this was printed out for people to pick up and buy, but here's pictures of Pancho Villa. You know, this is who these guys were out there going for, was Pancho Villa, the Mexican guerrillas. This is what the United States was down there hunting, were these guys. So, you know, just such an amazing collection, dude. God, this is so cool, dude. It's such an awesome array of artifacts that tell a complete story. You know, everywhere from the girls sneaking into the camp, to equipment being handed out, to, you know, out on the range shooting, pocket change, this little Indian head penny, you know, sitting there playing the harmonica, hanging out, you know, experimental bombs. I mean, this was an awesome adventure, dude. What would you like to add to this story?
Nothing. You know, well, I could add to it. You know, don't Google it, chase it. You want to get a little bit of history of what's going on. You want to actually physically get out there and touch what's going on. This is the man to hook up to. He's not only knowledgeable, he does the research. When he comes down and we go out to some of these places, he knows more about them than I do, and I respect him for that. And we're going out there, and we're going into tunnels and caves, the General George Kirk Tunnel, and we're driving in there, and Chase is telling me stories about this place that I hadn't even imagined, because he takes the time to do the research. It's the research that ends up taking you to these places and able to find these things with the permission of the landowners, and the history just comes alive. It isn't opening up a book and reading it. It's actually getting out there to physically touch
and
these
discovering
things and
this
feeling
stuff.
it.
Well, here's the thing, though, Eddie, is I can read all that I want to in a book, but without somebody like you to take us out into the desert and to take you guys out there out into the desert, you know, I might as well just be sitting here reading a book.
It enriches history. You know, some of these places that we've gone to, Camp Frederick Funston has a Walmart right next to it that closed down in 1975. The private ranch where we saw the trenchers, even though they're on private land right now, one day the rancher's going to go ahead and scrape in that brush and turn it into a grass field, and those rock alignments are going to disappear. And it's Chase's segments on Chasing History that preserves all this for future archaeologists and also for future historians to look at this and to see where they were and how they put these things together. It's really important.
And that's what's important for you guys to do as well. Here's what you've got to keep in mind is that human progress never stops. No plague or disease or famine or, well, maybe a meteorite, but really nothing's going to stop human progress. And the race is to get to and save these artifacts before they get destroyed, before a Walmart gets put on top of it, or a farmer comes and erases the evidence. You know, that's what's hugely important, and it's not only a responsibility that I feel, but one I hope you guys will feel too. Because literally in your own backyard, turn around off the computer, or if you're driving, watching YouTube, which you shouldn't, but I do, but you shouldn't. If you're driving, look out the window. Dad, something happened there. And it's your job to go out and figure out exactly what it is before this stuff gets gone. Archaeologists only have enough funding to do so much, and not every site is going to be protected. So sites that are in jeopardy, like what we were hunting, that are going to, eventually be developed or destroyed by progress, you got to go out there and save this stuff. You got to protect it. It's such an awesome responsibility, that I, for one, I dig it, dude. It's awesome, man. It's so much fun. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining us. Eddie, thank you so much for having us, man. Dude, you always show us an awesome time down here in the desert. Be sure to check out, we've got several other episodes of Chasing History on our YouTube channel with Eddie touring out in the desert, showing you other history as well. General George Crook Tunnel, a really cool, awesome Chinese mining camp. So be sure to check those out. Guys, you can find us on Facebook at Chasing History or the Smoky Mountain Relic Room. Be sure to like and subscribe our video on YouTube, because that makes us know that you guys are enjoying it. And please leave comments, on our episode. Now, keep in mind, some of our episodes are awesomely filmed by my 11-year-old son. And we're out in really harsh, hot, horrible conditions, okay? And the camera...
Chase will testify to that.
Yeah. And we're out in these hard conditions. We don't have a professional film crew, we're fully... It's nothing but us and volunteers, that film this, that edit it, and we do it with love and passion. So if the camera's a little bit shaky, I'm sorry. It's to get out to these places, that's just what you're going to have. So, but needless to say, I hope you guys enjoy what we're doing. So be sure to leave comments in the comment section. That way we know you're appreciating it, or what we're doing, or if we can improve on some things, let us know. We're working on microphones. But guys, thank you so much for watching. And remember, how do you know where you're going unless you know where you've been? It's in studying and understanding the mistakes of the past that prevent the failures of the future. And this history right here is a huge part of the past that we can learn from today. Think about it. Man, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It was great.
You guys stay tuned. Oh, we'll never, ever, ever be on Twitter. Twitter's evil and it's awful. That's why. Yeah! Woohoo! History rocks! Woo!